right now on Justice.
I have no insight into what exactly he's referring to.
The guessing game continues. What evidence could be behind President Trump's allegations against former President Obama? But the investigation will go on.
I've seen no evidence of the allegations we've seen. That doesn't mean that none of these things happened.
Tonight, I take my questions directly to the White House. I'll speak live exclusively with Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway, about the investigation, the allegations, and where we go from here. It's a Justice Primetime exclusive, and we're starting now. Breaking tonight, the White House offers a statement on the president's explosive allegations that seem to catch everyone, including the intelligence community and the president's inner circle, off guard. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway, is standing by live to answer my questions about those shocking allegations from the president and the investigation into those claims. But first, let's get caught up. After staying quiet all day yesterday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer released a series of tweets today in response to President Trump's tweets from yesterday morning, accusing President Obama of wiretapping him and his campaign in 2016. Spicer said in part, quote, President Trump is requesting that as part of their investigation into Russian activity, the Congressional Intelligence Committees exercise their oversight authority to determine whether executive branch investigative powers were abused in 2016. Spicer also said the White House and President won't comment again on this until the investigation happens. Meantime, another bombshell report out tonight that FBI Director James Comey is now front and center in all of this. Leland Vittert is standing by at the White House now with more. Leland?
Good evening, Judge. And this really sets up a potential Monday showdown between the FBI director and the president. And of course, the FBI director serves at the pleasure of the president. Over the weekend, James Comey reportedly went to the Justice Department and said he wanted to issue a statement vehemently denying Mr. Trump's accusation, saying he felt as though the president had accused the FBI of committing a crime, which it did not commit. Now, Fox News cannot independently corroborate that report that the New York Times had a couple of hours ago. We can tell you that law enforcement officials tell us that the most senior members of federal law enforcement were, quote, caught completely off guard by the president's tweets on Saturday morning, adding those officials had no idea what the president was talking about. The White House also not commenting, not offering any evidence in terms of support for what the president had to say on Saturday morning, nor have they offered any clarifications to the accusations. They have essentially passed the baton on to Congress. The House Intelligence Community is now going to pick up this as part of their investigation into the Russian involvement in the U.S. election. Still, though, a lot of unanswered questions, including whether Mr. Trump's senior staff that was caught completely off guard themselves were told by these Saturday morning tweets believes what the president had to say is true. Take a listen to the Deputy White House Press Secretary this morning.
The President of the United States is accusing the former president of wiretapping him.
I think that this is, again, something that if this happened, Martha,
If.
I agree.
Why is the president saying it did happen?
Look, I think he is going off of information that he's seen that has led him to believe that this is a very real potential.
Now, the president's information for the Saturday morning tweets appears to have come from a Breitbart article that was published late Thursday night, early Friday morning. That article was based on...
Yes.
You would be told this.
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order
Yes.
on something like this.
Something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists?
I can deny it.
There is no FISA court order?
Not to my knowledge.
Of anything at Trump Tower?
No.
And And joining me now from Washington in a primetime justice exclusive, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. Good evening, Kellyanne. Does President Trump already know the answer to the question as to whether or not he was wiretapped?
He may, as Senator Mark Warner of Virginia said on a different show today. Janine, the president receives different intelligence than everyone else. But the real point here is what the president has said and what Sean Spicer and Sarah Sanders, my colleague, said earlier today, which is there are a couple things going on here. One is we know there were politically motivated stories and investigations all through the campaign season, and those come from credible news sources, and the president wants to get to the bottom of that. I mean, what is everybody afraid of? They want to investigate everything, even the attenuated stuff, and yet they're afraid of connecting here what the president has asked for, which is basically if you're going to investigate, continue to investigate Russia, why not add to that an investigation of these allegations? And Janine, are we saying that there aren't leaks? I mean, the real issue here is one that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes raised again today, which is leaks. These bureaucratic leaks are hurting all of us. These are national security intelligence leaks from people held over from another administration, and it has to stop. This is serious stuff.
But Kellyanne, if indeed the president's accusation is based upon open source reporting, wouldn't he, and James Clapper, who would definitely know, because if there were a FISA warrant, DNI, FBI, and DOJ would know. He is saying that there wasn't. If the president knows this, he is in a position to declassify any warrant or wiretap order were one to exist. Why doesn't he just do that and prove it? Is he shifting the burden of proof to the Democrats?
No, he's not. But two things on that. The Democrats and some of their allies in other industries love to shout Russia, Russia. Imagine if every time they shouted Russia, they would shout leaks instead. And that's something that we actually know is happening and know that there's corroborating evidence. And if we got to the bottom of that, then we all may be safer. Secondly, Mr. Clapper did not, he did not discount the possibility that this may have come from somewhere else in the administration that's not under his purview. He said very clearly to Chuck Todd that he's talking about the agencies that are under his purview, that he would have known that and he can deny that. That's a very, listen, it's a very big administration. It's a big government filled with people.
Kellyanne, we're both lawyers. He's saying it could be Title III, and if it's Title III, that it would be a local or a state prosecutor in a criminal case. He's talking about federal foreign intelligence. So it's even worse if it's a federal criminal case.
But my only point is, Janine, I'm not crediting it one way or the other. My only point is that Mr. Clapper, in issuing a denial about a specific question that Chuck Todd asked him, also later in the interview left open the possibility that it could come from somewhere else. It's the same thing that happened yesterday when President Obama's spokesman said the cardinal rule was that President Obama and the White House officials never interfered in a Department of Justice investigation. Fine. But he did leap over the possibility that other pieces of the administration may be the source of this, may be leakers.
All right, let me ask you this then. Is it appropriate for a president to accuse another president based on open source reporting or with an open-ended question? And I guess even more important, if the head of the FBI is saying and pushing back and asking DOJ to push back on this, are we now facing a constitutional crisis before the first 100 days are over?
No, I wouldn't say that. If Mr. Comey has something he'd like to say, I'm sure we're all willing to hear it. All I saw was a published news report. I didn't see a statement from him. And so I don't know what Mr. Comey knows, but we're all
He would know. He would know either way, because if it were a Title III wiretap, he would know it because that's his criminal division. Or if it were an FBI, the counterintelligence, counterterrorism, he would know that too under FISA. He knows. And if he's pushing back, we've got a real problem between the head of the FBI and the president, the executive branch.
Well, and if he knows, of course, he can issue a statement. And we know he's not shy. So the other thing, the other question you asked, I just want to make the point too that we have a double standard here on anonymous sources. You know, the media are so quick to rely upon them for everything, including these leaks, any type of attenuated Russia connection. Anonymous sources, when it's negative and derogatory toward this president, if it's positive and exonerating, they don't want to hear about it. Somehow we need to have everything laid out, all types of evidence presented. The president made very clear, as did Sean Spicer, our press secretary, that we'd like this to be included in the president would like it to be included in the investigation, and that we'll have no further comment until that oversight is completed. The other point I'd like to make is, you know, everybody loves to run around and say, Jeanine, Judge Jeanine, that, oh, you know, the president had this wonderful speech on Tuesday night. He was heralded from all political corners. It was very unifying. People felt great. You saw the poll numbers afterwards.
They were great.
And yeah, everybody says, and look at this, now we can't talk about it anymore. Really, why not? Look at the Fox News polls and every other network's polls. What do those say are important to Americans? What we're discussing now, what everybody's obsessed with this whole week, or what the president talked about, that there is that action is a necessity, not a choice. We will have health care reform. We will have new domestic policies coming out this week, perhaps. We will, in fact, get a handle on this opiate abuse that the president laid out so beautifully the other night. He's got a lot to do, and he's going to do it.
Thanks, Kellyanne, for being with us. And here with reaction, former Republican presidential candidate, Fox News contributor Herman Cain. All right, Herman, so in addition to Jim Comey and the FBI, and it seems that he's kind of wiggled his way into the middle of things, you are someone who ran for president and are somewhat familiar with dirty tricks. What's your take on all of this?
My take is that all of these voices that are coming out on this issue are all speculative. Judge,
including the president?
My advice,
including the president?
That could be speculative also, but Judge, we don't know what he knows. So
well, why doesn't he declassify what he knows? Because he's in a position to do it.
Judge, I don't know the answer to that. Here's the point I'm trying to make. There are so many unknowns and so much speculation. Everybody simply needs to take a chill pill and let the investigation take place. The White House is not objecting to the investigation. Let it take place. The media has been just absorbed with this whole Russia connection. Why not throw this in there? That's all I'm saying. So at this point, there is too much speculation from too many people. Everybody needs to take a chill pill and let the investigation go forth. Now, allow me to say this, Judge.
Go ahead.
I'll say this. Where is the story about an organization called We Will Replace You that has threatened members of Congress, Democrats, that if they vote for anything Trump, they're going to primary them. They're going to get a candidate to run against them. This is an outright threat.
But that's politics.
That's not politics,
what we're talking
Judge.
about now. Look, every party wants their candidate and their people to run to work on behalf of their party. But this is the important thing. You believe that President Obama is capable of having sought a wiretap. And look, let's not tiptoe around. Everybody knows the president can actually order, and he sends his people in front of a judge to get a warrant to get it. But you think that Obama would have been capable of doing that to Trump?
I'm saying I don't know, Judge. And I'm not going to be one of those voices. Yes, he's capable, but I'm not going to speculate on that. This is what everybody's doing. Even everybody is speculating based upon what they think they know and what they think they don't know. I'm saying this is just adding fuel to the frenzy. Let the investigation take place, then we will know what the facts are. We don't know the facts right now.
All right. Thank you, Herman Cain.
You're welcome.
And former Trump campaign national spokesperson Katrina Pearson is still on deck tonight. Plus, street justice. And next, you're going to meet a woman who may change your thinking on this whole story. FISA applications, wiretapping. She's a former Department of Justice national security lawyer, and she actually did these FISA application warrants for a living. You need to hear her. Justice rolls on in just a moment. Welcome back to Justice. Let's dig deeper onto these allegations made by President Trump. That President Obama had Trump Tower wiretapped during the presidential campaign. With me now is former Department of Justice counterterrorism and counterintelligence attorney Carrie Cordero. All right, good evening, Carrie, and your first time on Justice. Thanks for being with us. You are one of the few people that has actually done these FISA warrants and has gone to a FISA judge on behalf of the Department of Justice. And so this is your cup of tea. So let's get down to some of the basics. Number one, this is an area of law that is very specific. It's almost clandestine, and in a sense that most people don't even know where the FISA court is located. They don't know who these judges are. There's 11 of them who were appointed by the Chief Justice. They're there for 7 years. I think actually that Chuck Schumer misspoke when he said they were elected judges. I don't know what that was about. But what I want to ask you is this. What does it take to get a judge in a FISA court to sign a wiretap warrant?
Well, thanks for having me on, Judge. It is an extensive process to obtain FISA court approval. As you mentioned, these are federal judges who are appointed by the Chief Justice, and there is an extensive process within the Justice Department, many levels of legal review, substantive information that needs to be included in the applications that are presented to the court, and many legal authorities that need to be met in order for those judges to approve a particular case.
All right, and what is the difference? There is some talk, and very briefly, between a FISA court in terms of probable cause and a federal judge handling a probable cause in a criminal case.
So very roughly, in a criminal case, the government has to demonstrate probable cause that a crime is being or has been committed. In a FISA case, the government has to establish probable cause that the target is an agent of a foreign power or that the target is a foreign power. And then there's various other findings that need to be made, and a senior national security official has to certify that the purpose is to collect foreign intelligence information and that this is going to aid in national security.
I'm going to ask you to assume, Kerry, that an application is made in June of 2016, and I want to make clear to my viewers that you have no information about anything that went on with respect to the matter that is presently before us and everybody else in the country. Assume that they make an application for a FISA warrant, and as you say, there are many layers, and the people who do this are pretty expert. They know what's required. That FISA application is denied. It is very unusual. In fact, my understanding from people who've done this is like 99.9% are granted, not because, you know, they just rubber stamp, but because everybody knows what's required and you don't show up unless you've got the goods, correct?
That's right. These are heavily lawyered and really finished intelligence products often that are presented to the court, and the court has to make its findings. It is unusual for a matter to be denied, but that's because before these applications are presented to the court, they are thoroughly and extensively vetted within the Justice Department and within whatever agency is requesting the authority, usually the FBI.
Now, October, they go back, same subject matter. It is then, you know, signed, and I guess it's more narrow in scope, more facts, and at this point, it is granted. How long would an order like this be good for, generally?
Oh, it's very hard to say. And again, the particular matter is whether there really even was an order in the summer, was there an order issued in the fall, is based on very not established reporting at this point, and so there really is a large question as to whether a matter was even before the court, whether anything was ever approved, whether the order would have been for surveillance, or whether the FISA court also approves applications for pen register surveillance or business records.
Without getting into the weeds here, would a president know if there were a FISA order, wiretap order on a candidate for president? And I just have a little time left. Would he know?
I think it's unlikely.
Why?
Generally, a White House, in a very sensitive matter, would want to insulate itself from any political influence on requesting national security wiretaps or surveillance orders. And so it's very unlikely that there would have been any White House involvement. Certainly, for an order like this to be approved, it's a federal judge, it's a court that approves it.
But the Attorney General is involved, and you say generally. I mean, here we had a president who was actually campaigning against that man running for president, in this case Trump, calling him all kinds of names. So it's rather unusual. But we'll look at, quickly because we're up against the clock, will a congressional inquiry get to the bottom of this, or would the president have to declassify this information himself?
I think there's two investigations that need to move forward, and they
10
need
seconds.
to be insulated from politics. The Justice Department and the FBI need to continue whatever investigations they may have ongoing, and certainly there needs to be a bipartisan congressional inquiry out of the Intelligence Committee.
Can they get to the bottom of it, yes or no?
The Intelligence Committees,
yes.
absolutely.
Can
they
the
have
president
professional staff.
declassify? I don't mean to cut you off. We're against a hard break. Can the president declassify?
The president has ultimate declassification authority, sure.
All right. Carrie Cardero, great to have you on. We're going to have you back. Thank you so much.
Great, thank
and
you.
Street Justice still on deck tonight, plus former Trump campaign spokesperson Katrina Pearson. And next, my political panel packing a punch, ready to debate the battle of the presidents that has the whole nation talking. Panel is next, and I'm ready to jump into the fray because I'm so shy. Don't miss it.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Kelly Wright in New York. The U.S. tracking new missile launches by North Korea. Reports say several were launched Monday morning local time. They were tracked by the U.S. military and posed no threats to our country. The missiles flew roughly 620 miles. Republicans may soon unveil their plans to replace Obamacare. Lawmakers spent the weekend holding meetings and fine-tuning their proposal. The final bill may be unveiled early this week. It was a major campaign promise by President Trump. President Trump may sign a revised travel ban order tomorrow. Iraq is expected to be removed from the list of countries, including the temporary U.S. travel ban. The original order faced several legal challenges. And that's a look at news this hour. I'm Kelly Wright. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
Welcome back to Justice. Time for the panel. I'm joined live by former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush, Brad Blakeman, and from Democracy for America, Neil Soroka. Thanks for being here, guys. Now, guys, I got to start with this. Look, the hypocrisy makes me crazy. Ben Rhodes, who tweets, these restrictions, no president can order wiretap. These restrictions are put in place to protect us from citizens, from people like you. And yet, you know, Ben Rhodes was part of that administration where the Obama administration used the IRS to go after conservatives, and then they went after the Justice Department, went after reporters, and then all of a sudden now we've got Jim Comey saying to the Justice Department, look, you better say something because we never did this to the president. And last week, Jim Comey says the FBI would love to help the administration, but the FBI can't get into the position of making statements on every story. I mean, everybody's talking out of both sides of their mouths. It's no wonder the American people are fed up. So my question is this, Brad Blakeman, should the president have tweeted this? And did he step on his own great story regarding his joint session speech, or was he trying to cover up on the Jeff Sessions issue?
No, I think the president believes that there was mischief afoot within the Obama administration, and this is an orchestrated attempt that we've seen since Election Day to discredit this president and to show that he didn't win fairly and squarely. Again, look, Judge, time will tell. The good news is that the Congress is going to take this up in a bipartisan fashion in the House and the Senate, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
But what happens, Neil? Neil, what happens?
The good news is the Congress is going to do it. If you're going to do a bang-up job, I'm sure.
So, Neil, what should happen?
We should have a special investigator. We should have a special investigator looking into all of the connections between Donald Trump and his campaign in Russia.
Hold on, Neil. Is that a new category, a special investigator? What is that?
Yeah, let's have someone actually doing a full-scale independent investigation with no ties to either party. Let's actually have the truth come out about what connections Donald Trump has and his campaign had to Russia. And listen, if he wants to go on this wild goose chase about whether or not Barack Obama ordered
Neil,
FISA warrant, yes.
Neil, the president ordered on December 9th that the intelligence community give him all information as to any Americans' involvement with Russia. And there was to be a report to Congress on January 6th. There was a report to Congress. There was nothing about any American, and Paul Ryan said that.
And
all right, Congress got the report.
And what we've seen repeatedly since then is Donald Trump's administration and people within it have lied about their contacts with the Russian government over the course of the campaign.
You're saying
and over the
wait a minute. So you're saying that President Obama and all the intelligence communities couldn't figure it out, but the press can? Brad, what's your answer to that one?
Well, look, all the government entities that are involved in this thing, which came up with this report in early January, and now there's a suggestion being made by my friend that there should be a special investigator. I think what he means is a special prosecutor.
Right.
But let me tell my friend that the Constitution says that Congress shall have the power of oversight. There's no redelegation of duties.
Right. We haven't seen them actually perform real oversight.
So
right
should
now.
we get rid of Congress?
Where is the oversight happening? There isn't real concern right now about what interference
so who
Russia
decides
had.
that? If you don't like it, we should throw Congress oversight out? We're in government.
There have been
what
plenty
are you
of times
talking
where
about?
there have been plenty of times where special prosecutors have taken over investigations.
Why are they going to prosecute? What is the crime? Neil,
what is the crime? A collusion with the Russian government. That's
really?
the crime.
Prove it. We already know that they were involved with the voting.
Donald Trump is making assertions that he doesn't actually have any evidence to back it up. So
what's the crime?
Are we in a world where if we're in a world where the president can say, is that a crime to make allegations without any evidence?
Yeah,
no, it's
is
not
that
a crime. Is it a crime to make allegations without any evidence? No, it's not a crime. But it's certainly not presidential.
Ahead,
it is presidential if the president has cause to believe that conduct occurred. That Congress needs to look into.
He could declassify that Pfizer report today if it actually happened, but it didn't. And numerous people who actually would know have said that that investigation.
But that's the purpose of the investigation, is to find out exactly what orders were signed and by whom and for what purpose. And that's exactly what the House Intelligence and the Senate Intelligence Committee did.
So you're telling me you don't believe the New York Times?
I'm telling you, I don't believe Donald Trump. I don't think most
Americans do. The New York Times said they did it. They went in June, and then they got kicked out, and then they went back with a new order. They were hell-bent on getting a warrant, so they went back.
What Donald Trump is alleging is that Barack Obama wiretapped his offices. That is what the allegation
is. But it's never Barack Obama. It's always his henchmen who do it.
That is
We've seen it in the
I'm
IRS.
quoting
We've seen it in
Trump's
Fast and Furious.
tweet. Sir, I'm quoting Donald Trump's tweet. He said that Barack Obama wiretapped his phones. That's not, there is zero evidence to suggest that's true.
We wouldn't know it, would we, Neil? Because the FISA court is all classified in secret. Let's talk about, let's change the subject. Let's talk about Jeff Sessions. Should he have recused himself, Brad?
Yes, he should. And the reason being, Judge, is sometimes the allegation is more damaging than the actual crime that's alleged of perjury. Certainly he didn't perjure himself. I listened to the question. I listened to the answer. He's now submitting a supplemental affidavit to the committee. And
Should
I think
he have
that's
recused himself, Neil?
Of course he should have. He should have resigned. I mean, this is a guy who's lied under oath.
Should Loretta Lynch have recused herself when she met with the spouse of a woman who was under criminal investigation and never told a damn soul?
I don't understand what that one has to do with the other.
Well, they're
talking about
attorney generals.
Jeff Sessions lied under oath
he
to
did not
Congress.
Lie under oath.
He was talking about
he did not lie under oath.
He lied under oath.
He did not.
And then when he resubmitted that testimony, he said the same thing over again. So listen, it's not like he didn't. He had a temporary brain fart here.
Did Nancy Pelosi lie when she said she never sat with a Russian ambassador, and she did?
She wasn't under oath, ma'am.
Oh, so you can lie to the American public and get away with it in America.
No. What I'm saying is there should be a difference between lying under oath.
Thank you very much. All right. She knows Donald Trump and his team as well as anyone. Next, former Trump campaign national spokesperson Katrina Pearson joins us live. Don't go away.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7. Channel 115.
Welcome back to Justice. I'm joined live by former Trump campaign national spokesperson, Katrina Pearson. All right, Katrina, you worked with the president on his campaign. Did you ever wake up knowing that the president, the candidate at that point, had tweeted something really, what should I say? What adjective should I use? Maybe shocking that you had to respond to within a matter of an hour or so. Does it surprise you that this kind of thing is still happening?
No, not at all. And in fact, you can check the tapes. This is something that I've been saying from the very beginning. Donald Trump is going to continue to be Donald Trump, and he's going to continue to communicate with the public.
All right. So let's talk about this whole thing and Barack Obama. You know, there are those people who say, you know, like Ben Rhodes, Barack Obama would never do anything like this. And yet what we saw was a campaign where we had a president who the last week of the campaign did nothing but campaign for the president's opponent, Hillary Clinton. I'm okay. And called Donald Trump virtually every name in the book, called him basically a liar, called him dark and pessimistic, called him all kinds of names. Would this surprise you?
This wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, look at where we are today with politics and particularly with media involvement. This is an administration that has used agencies to target political opponents, so this would be right up that alley.
And with respect to the way that the president is handling this, do you think that this was a good time to do it? Should he have waited? Because there's going to be an executive order tomorrow, we hear, on the travel ban. I mean, he had a great week with everybody saying how great his joint session speech was. Why did he do that?
Well, I think what you learn after working with the president for so long is that he doesn't do things on a whim as most people would expect. The president is very smart, and he's usually 3 steps ahead of everyone else, which is why you see over time things work out in his favor.
And at when this thing all comes to fruition, they're talking about a congressional investigation and that they're not going to be saying anything until that congressional investigation is over. I'm wondering if there will be a change in the relationship between the head of the FBI, James Comey, who has since come out this evening, according to reports, and said he wants the Department of Justice to push back. What do you think of James Comey inserting himself in the middle of this again, when last week with Reince Priebus, when McCabe, who was in the Department of Justice, said, you know, that Times article is wrong, and Reince Priebus says, well, would you kind of push back on it? And they said, we don't do stories, and yet now the same FBI is saying we want to push back on this one.
Well, if this is true, I think it's a sad day in America when the FBI director is telling agencies not to listen to the President of the United States and his request. But I also think that FBI Comey should be more concerned about bringing new information to the public, considering that there were several field offices that wanted the Clinton Foundation investigated, which has been under investigation for over a year. The public will be more interested to find out what the FBI is doing about that, and the fact that the Department of Justice may have intervened with that investigation, as we all know, with the famous meeting of Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton on a plane in private. And I really don't think that they care that a U.S. senator that was a member of the Armed Services Committee actually ran into an ambassador at an event one day.
Well, you know what's interesting, you know, when you talk about the Clinton Foundation, is that, you know, the contributions to the foundation are almost nil at this point, I think, proving the point that so many have made in the past, that it was all about access, it was all about pay for play.
Absolutely.
And that it had nothing to do with, you know, charities, especially, and the shame of it all is that it set the tone for the Eric Trump Foundation for Children with Cancer in St. Jude's. But finally, in terms of this week and the president, I understand he's very upset that Jeff Sessions recused himself. Do you think that he should have done that?
I don't think the senator should have recused himself because he did nothing wrong. He answered the question that was asked to him. But the senator is a very good man. I know him well, and I could see him not wanting to be a distraction. And because he was considered a part of the campaign, he probably just wanted to recuse himself to take this out of the news cycle.
Well, there's no question he is a good man, and it was the appearance of impropriety. He did nothing wrong. Katrina Pearson,
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here.
And
Thank you,
Street
Judge.
Justice is next. I'm taking on Bill Maher and Michael Moore. Don't miss it. A moving moment at the president's joint sessions address, one that was actually criticized by members of the liberal Hollywood elite, including Michael Moore and Bill Maher, who had the nerve to say that this woman, Navy SEAL widow Karen Owens, was used by the president. Used. I got so angry, I hit the streets for street justice. Michael Moore, Bill Maher, the woman's being used. She's a poor woman. She's pathetic. What do you think of that?
I think it's uncalled for. I think it was a great thing because the families of our fallen and those in uniform serve just as much as those that are actually on the front line. And I think it's very disrespectful to say something like that.
Is she a woman who's being used, the widow, when both, the House was applauding her for 2 minutes?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't think so.
Do you think Bill Maher, Michael Moore are right to say she's used, she's a poor, pathetic woman?
No, they shouldn't have said that. I don't think so.
Do you think she was used?
No, not at all. I think it's a disgrace that they would say those things. I think we should be proud of her husband, and I hope the Democrats and the rest of the Democratic Party start showing a little more respect.
Michael Moore and Bill Maher, they're saying she was used and the president was putting another notch on his belt. What do you think of people who say things like that? You agree, disagree?
It's one way to look at it.
Yeah? She was used?
I agree completely.
I
think he was banking on her suffering.
What do you think of people like Michael Moore who are saying she was being used and the poor woman? Do you think that was right?
No, I don't. No, I don't think it was right. He's a Navy SEAL, and I think people should support our military. He puts his life on the line.
Why do you think that they're being so critical for her at least being applauded? And
I think he's looking to make another movie. That's what I think.
What do you think of people calling her this poor woman? She's another notch on his belt. What is that about?
She's a widow. And I think we should have compassion for her. Her husband lost her life fighting for our country.
Real fast, come on, don't make me chase you.
People are just extremely critical of everything these days.
Do you think for the next 4 years it'll change?
Oh, I imagine it's probably going to get worse.
All right, there's no hope?
No. Maybe in 5 years, check with me.
Yeah, all right. Can I interview your dog? Hey, it's Anthony! It's Anthony! What do you say? What do you do?
That's a negative. They shouldn't have did that at all. The guy went out there, to risk his life. And, when you risk your life, that's like risking your family life. Of course, we taking care of everybody out there.
Do you have hope for the next 4 years? Is it going to get worse?
Well, the only thing I can say, we got to ride it till the wheels fall off, because you know what? It is what it is.
Ride it till the wheels fall off. Is it a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler? What are we riding?
I think they didn't think they were going to really actually lose to a TV personality who they thought didn't have any experience. But he's been wanting to do this for many years, so that's what I think.
Why? When do you think that got over?
Probably never.
Do you think that things will change in the next 4 years?
I hope so.
Me too. That's it. Okay, why are they saying mean things like that?
Maybe to make him look bad, A lot of people hate Trump, so everyone hate him right now.
But why would Michael Moore and Bill Maher and all of them be saying the president shouldn't have brought her out? Don't presidents do that?
Well, that's a shame, though. If a president does that, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, but shouldn't we thank her for her husband's service?
Absolutely, yeah. She was his wife.
Right. This ain't making sense yet. Anyway, so was it a good thing or a bad thing what Michael Moore said?
Bad thing.
Good. We got it.
Yes.
Thank you. Bad. And that's the end of that.
B-A-D, bad.
Bad. We'll be right back. Friend me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Judge_Jeanine. By the way, we were #1 again last weekend. Thanks so much. Fox News Sunday is next. See you next week, Saturday night. I'll be back. justice.
I have no insight into what exactly he's referring to.
The guessing game continues. What evidence could be behind President Trump's allegations against former President Obama? But the investigation will go on.
I've seen no evidence of the allegations we've seen. That doesn't mean that none of these things happened.
Tonight, I take my questions directly to the White House. I'll speak live exclusively with Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway, about the investigation, the allegations, and where we go from here. It's a Justice Primetime exclusive, and we're starting now. Breaking tonight, the White House offers a statement on the president's explosive allegations that seem to catch everyone, including the intelligence community and the president's inner circle, off guard. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway, is standing by live to answer my questions about those shocking allegations from the president and the investigation into those claims. But first, let's get caught up. After staying quiet all day yesterday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer released a series of tweets today in response to President Trump's tweets from yesterday morning, accusing President Obama of wiretapping him and his campaign in 2016. Spicer said in part, quote, President Trump is requesting that as part of their investigation into Russian activity, the Congressional Intelligence Committees exercise their oversight authority to determine whether executive branch investigative powers were abused in 2016. Spicer also said the White House and President won't comment again on this until the investigation happens. Meantime,